So I had this realization not long after the extreme part of the organized stalking had finished that there's basically like two sides of psychology um, when it comes to this area. Um, and it's a gross generalization, I suppose. But it's basically like light and dark psychology, and the dark one is the mainstream take on what this is. Um, you get mobbed and stalked and all the rest of it, and that'll be called, in the mainstream psychology, that'll be called schizophrenia, delusions. And they'll apply a smear to discredit you. They're basically the flying monkeys of the system designed by, the worst kind of real narcissists, not these diluted, version you always hear about nowadays, but the real evil people in this society that write the books like the DSM. I call it the demonic smear manual, just jokingly. I always like to take the piss out of all of this. It's the only way I cope. But then there's the light, the good side of psychology when it comes to covert abuse and, this whole stalking, organised stalking and all that acknowledges the trauma. It talks about NPD and their antics and what they do and, how they do absurd things that no one could ever believe is possible. And they almost, I'm pretty sure they deliberately do totally absurd things so that just by you saying those things, you sound crazy and then no one believes you. Unfortunately, the battery's running out on the camera, so I'm going to have to wrap this one up. But it's just a short one. I know probably most people that ever come across this will already know this, but personally, I think it's nice. Sometimes you're at a stage where it's nice just to hear others saying that. I know there's other people that are like, what are you saying? We already know all this. Why repeat it? But I think it's important to repeat it, to be honest. And it feels like a big fuck you to evil to say it. They want us to shut up and not talk about it. But, that's my take on psychology. There's like two sides. The mainstream, which is basically the flying monkeys of the NPD that smear the victims of abuse, and then there's the honest side that just quietly on the down low they talk about, they acknowledge that the trauma's real and why is that? People should ask themselves. Why is it all on the down low so secret? Obviously to protect the abusers up top so that it doesn't become public knowledge that we're run by a bunch of covert abusers. And the only nagging question for me is just how many flying monkeys, gaslighters, mockers, how many of them know what they're doing in mental health or, psychology, psychiatry, counselling, regular people on the street, how many of them actually know that they're deliberately gaslighting you? And I have a counsellor friend that I'm pretty sure they don't believe anything I say, and they even tell me I'm wrong and it's not like that. There's no governarch, government isn't a bunch of narcissists. And I guess technically he may be right because they're the flying monkeys of the narcissists above them. But I think he genuinely believes all these smears. If he's just programmed to say delusion, paranoia, schizophrenia, to believe them without seeing that is actually covering up an abuse, like a V2K, voice to skull, for people who hear voices. Thankfully, I don't. I don't know why that is, but I don't. And it must be awful for people who do hear them. Another level of awfulness. Sorry, I got to wrap this up. Otherwise, if the camera runs out, it'll be a corrupted file. So, yeah, I did want to say a bit more, but yeah, it's just whatever, I better stop this now anyways. It just stinks, eh? Like, that's the worst thing, is this gaslight ambulance at the bottom of the cliff waiting to finish you off, because it really devastates, you know, when you've been through really bad shit and it's overt and brazen and it's not even that sneaky, you know, and everyone gets on board with it. Like, that's not what you think it is. That never happened. What are you talking about? Oh, you're a crazy man, and, you know, then you fuck off and you live in a van or a tent or hang out with animals, and you're an angry, you know, according to the system, you're an angry schizo, and they just can't figure out why. You know, why would anyone be stewing in anger? Oh, that's a symptom of schizophrenia. I really would love to go on a big fucking tirade, but battery's about out, so I better stop this one.